Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Friday, December 26th, 2025, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. I had a really, really good Christmas. I think Christmas just hit all the right notes this year, and I'm very thankful for it. So I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. And it's one of those things where the snow was on the ground, there were carols in the air, everything just kind of boom, hit perfectly. And I thought, man, what a great Christmas. So I hope you guys had that too. I just doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're hoping for snow and it doesn't come, or sometimes you're hoping for something that's elusive maybe. And so this year, just everything came together for me. So anyway, I enjoyed Christmas immensely this year. Trump. Let's get into the politics of the things. Trump has video of stolen elections. There's a bunch of videos being put out, and Trump is indeed seeming a changed tone coming out of the Trump administration, and Trump himself may be going on offense. I'm not sure exactly, but something seems to have changed. Trade and pipelines and decarbonized oil, end of year conversations with Mark Carney and him talking about his plans and what's coming in the new year for Canada, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not excited. I don't want the government to come back and get to work, because getting to work means I don't think it means helping Canadians. I think it means furthering the globalist agenda. And I hope I'm wrong about that, but there's an election fraud cartel. We're going to talk about that with regards to Trump and stolen elections. And I think that it extrapolates out to Canada as well. And that was on there twice, so sorry about that. Illegals are counted in the census, and that's skewing governing numbers. And I think that, again, a lot of the stuff that's being exposed in the United States and talked about is happening in Canada, and we don't have any kind of good way to stop it or measure it. Or if you do try and stop it and measure it, they'll treat you like you're a patient in an emergency room having a heart attack. They'll say, listen, sir, we'll get to you when we get to you. And then, when they get to you, you die. And that's a story on today's show as well, which is absolutely incredible. This happened in Edmonton on the 22nd, I believe, of December. So heart attack, and he was just ignored for 8 hours. Unbelievable. U.S. bombs Niger over Islamists killing Christians. And so, holy cow, right? The day after Christmas, there's no brakes on this 2025 train, so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We're talking about money, and there's a couple of things. The powers that be, use Christmas to sneak things through when they know people aren't paying attention. And so they're using it to advance the digital euro. And so I want to show you that. And there's lots of money news and governance news, rigged election news, and more. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, National Post is reporting the House of Commons just capped off one of its least productive years. In 2025, Canada's 342 MPs, representing 41 million people and overseeing a $586 billion budget, sat for the fewest number of days since 1937 and passed only 7 bills. And I don't want them to pass any more bills. Don't misunderstand. That's not what I'm going for here. But I want them to stop the insanity. We have had sliding down this slippery slope for years, and it's only been getting worse. And every time they promise to fix something, address something, they make it worse. And so all that's happened is they've made lots of promises and done nothing. Carney is talking about how his new government built Canada strong this year. Not materially, not practically, not in any measurable sense of anything. You built a bureaucracy kind of, sort of, and then you stole plans from other bureaucracies that were almost done and claimed victory on them. But that's not progress. That's not fast action or anything like that. That's just doing what Mark Carney did when he went on his fun run, right? He put on a little number. Did he have a number on? And then he ran around a corner, and then that was the photo op done, right? I don't believe that he was running. And when he's talking about all of his accomplishments, it's vapor, it's air, it's nothing. It's fake, right? Here is Simon. He says the EU moved the digital euro for the ECB forward yesterday on December 24th, 2025, just before Christmas. Same playbook as in 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was passed while Congress and the public were preparing for Christmas. Monetary reform passes when no one is watching. So this is 2 minutes of talking about how they're moving forward with the digital euro, blah, 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 blah. But we're not going to spend our time necessarily there. I just want to point out that these things are moving, these pieces are moving, and we're behind the 8 ball, proverbially. We are not in a position to counter because most people aren't paying attention. Most people don't know what's going on with silver. I haven't heard anything. Haven't heard anything. Next week, maybe. We'll see. Some countdown. Yikes. Mark Nixon says, insanity. U.S. is abandoning net zero. Meanwhile, Canada's economy is, and Carney says the U.S. is falling behind, which is not true, right? Like, they abandoned net zero and their economy grew by almost 5%, and Canada's shrank by 0.3%, which is the worst in the last 3 years. Why is our economy shrinking? And why is that only 3 years that it's the worst? That seems bad. Anyway, meanwhile, Canada's economy is contracting. U.S. economy is booming at 4.3%. He wants Canadians to believe shrinking is winning. Carney is out of touch with reality. Yeah, I think so. Here's just the end of this back and forth. He's made his point a couple of times, but he kind of ties it all up at the end here. So I'll let him tie it all up at the end here. And this is where he says the stuff about the United States falling behind because they're not getting invested in this carbon thing. The powers that be that Carney represents and is aligned with, the globalists, the European Eurocrats, the globalists of Europe, are all trying to wait Trump out. They're trying to just basically wait him out, and they don't see anybody, and I agree at this point in time, I don't see anybody on the field, J.D. Vance included, who can do what Trump is doing right now. And so after Trump, well, they're going to just go back to doing exactly what they want to do. And if the United States doesn't get on board, they're going to try and bankrupt the United States. They're going to stop the tariffs. They're going to reinstitute the income tax, because I think Trump's going to try and get rid of, I think this time next year, Trump's going to have no income tax in the United States. Could be wrong, but I think that he wants to move fast enough so this is a difficult thing to bring back, because once the globalists are back in power, if Trump is gone, they're going to try and put the things back that Trump broke. So Trump is trying to break them in a way that they can't put them back without people being really upset, right? Like, so here's Mark Carney talking about how, and so in that way, Mark Carney is aligning with the Eurocrats and globalists to wait Trump out. But I don't know if it's going to work, but I think that's their strategy.
In order to reduce those emissions, because what will happen, first off, there's the moral imperative of the moral obligation, responsibility for future generations of addressing the issue.
It's a fake issue. We have a moral obligation to stop these people stealing our money on a fake issue and spending it on kickbacks and bullshit. Because, sorry, climate change, global warming, it's false. And everybody pretty well knows it's false, except these people who are acting like it's super duper real and we should really, really, move quickly to counter this thing. Nope. And the biggest problem is the globalist people that Mark Carney represents are running things. That's the biggest problem. We're moving away from solutions that we know work and into solutions that don't work on the justification of this bullshit hoax. And it is a bullshit hoax.
But it's also the commercial reality. Climate has become less of an issue politically if you look at polling, but it is continuing, the climate change is continuing remorselessly. And what is happening is that the importance of being lower carbon, whether it's in energy, automobiles, aerospace, services, whatever industry, will only become more important. You just have to look at where China and others are going. We have an opportunity.
We have to look at where China's going?
Enormous opportunity in this country to leapfrog the United States. The United States has taken its eye off the ball on this. I mean, they've really downgraded it. We have an opportunity to leapfrog the United States. On top of that overall responsibility, we can create jobs, we can make life more affordable, we can build our economy, and we are going to take those opportunities as they come.
Leapfrog the United States. We can't build a pipeline. Are you kidding me? Leapfrog the United States. It's not realistic at all. We don't have the population. We don't have the political will to build the way the United States builds. We don't have a shadow of what the United States production is. Not even close. Look at the charts. Oh yeah, we have an opportunity to leapfrog the United States. How, Mr. Carney? By paying more taxes than they pay. So winning, says Mr. Carney. Holy smoke. Mark Nixon again says, disgusting. Mark Carney laughs at the thousands of Canadians that lost their jobs after he approved Doug Ford's attack ad ending U.S. trade talks. He admits they're not negotiating, not paused, not stalled, done, it's over, and he thinks it's funny on Christmas. So yeah, it's the trade stuff is a big failure, and Mark Carney's trying to reframe it as no big deal, who cares, it's no problem, we're going to pivot, and everything's going to be fine. And they're going to try and sell the false idea that everything's fine. And anybody who says everything's not fine is spreading misinformation, dangerous misinformation. So it's not just vaccines anymore that you can have your YouTube channel canceled for. It'll be when you say, hey, the economy is like contracting again for this, eighth quarter in a row. I wonder if that seems bad. Historically, this is what it says about that. And then they come in and say, that's dangerous misinformation, Mark. You can't say that. So it's pretty wild. Here's Mark Carney.
Have the tough negotiations, which we're having. Have those discussions, and then if a good deal is there, yes, we will sign it. But if it's not there, we're not going to sign a bad deal.
Just to be clear, there aren't negotiations underway now formally.
There
right?
are not formal ones yet.
Okay.
But there's negotiations about negotiations. How's that? That's the way it works.
Oh, you're a politician.
No, but that's the way it works. That's the way it works in trade. So we're the scoping of what's going to be in CUSMA, how it's going to be arranged, and that's going to come. Have the tough.
There are no negotiations, right? Well, right. There's not. Yes, no, there's not any negotiations. There aren't. And so that's concerning too, right? Here is Sam Cooper talking about Mark Carney's conflicts, and people, I can't remember who it is, but it was a radio person.
Financially.
Sorry. There's a radio person talking about how isn't this conflict of interest bad, and isn't this ethically a violation of the conflict of interest and so on and so forth. And I responded with, yeah, but it's a $500 fine if you're found to violate the ethics laws. It's a $500 fine. Mark Carney's going to laugh at that, just like Justin Trudeau laughed at that. So yeah, but who cares? Because even if he's found guilty, there are no teeth. You get a $500 fine and a ceremonial slap on the wrist that doesn't exist, right? They say, oh, poo-poo, right? You shouldn't do that. And then the media will ignore it, as they have, and will continue to ignore it. And people, this sounds like a big deal. And I think it is a big deal. Nobody is going to be held accountable for any of this. Nobody at all. If people are held accountable for this, I will be shit shocked. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm eating crow and saying, my gosh, I got it totally wrong. People have been arrested. This list of people are now arrested. I hope so. Okay. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Although people are serious, but at the same time, the law enforcement doesn't work for us, right? Did you see the Freedom Convoy? There was a point where the law was kind of standing neutral, and then a switch was flipped, and they didn't work for the Canadian citizen anymore. Here is a conversation about concerning conflict of interest, concerning conflicts for the Prime Minister that really should be addressed, and they won't be addressed. Here we go.
Ties to Bank of China, Belt and Road, at Brookfield, along with Bloomberg, again, dealing with Jin Li-kun, senior CCP financier and the Asia Investment Infrastructure Bank, right? Over to the World Economic Forum, also with Jin Li-kun and people like Michael Bloomberg promoting those green development agendas that you speak of. And when you say that, global carbon capture is $1 trillion financial system, something like that, that just tells me, although I haven't researched it like you have, it's, yet another global financial system that, of course, Beijing will be angling to have deep involvement and influence over. And in its competition with the United States, its aim will be to have controlling interest, which should be why, as you and I have said, if we see certain people traveling together at meetings in Davos, states will be there that aren't friendly, to the United States at the end of the day. American industrialist tycoons will be there. And so the question, more than ever, for these Western tycoons is, in their business dealings, are they thinking about the sovereignty and economic integrity of their nation?
They're not thinking of the sovereignty or economic integrity of their nation because they don't work for us, in my opinion. Here is a couple of our videos, etc., released by Donald Trump on Truth Social, talking about the rigged 2020 election and how rigged it really is and was. And actually, there's a couple of good breakdowns. And and breakdowns of how Dominion flipped things. But there were people on the ground, operatives on the ground, that Trump has video of, and he's sharing the video. And it seems like, again, could go one of two ways. One way, everybody says, oh my gosh, this is the biggest scandal in modern American history, and everybody watches it like the OJ trial. Or people could say, Trump is crazy and he's peddling conspiracy theories and we're not going to cover Trump's conspiracy theories. And then all the news just buries it and then it goes nowhere and things stall out. And then again, this plays to the strategy of waiting Trump out. But it seems like Trump has double-barreled shotguns full of evidence and an intent to use it and drag all of this out into the open. So we'll see if he's able to do this, or if he's stymied by himself, his team, or more broadly, the courts and things like that. But here is the first one. Steve says, strange indeed, and you weren't allowed to question it either. Just ask Rudy and Tina. Rudy Giuliani was made bankrupt by claiming that specific elections were rigged, and so they bankrupt him because he questioned it, and then it was elections in Georgia, and it was just found out that he was correct, 100% correct. So they ruined him even though he was right. Here's Trump's first video.
I just thought it was strange that only Biden's name was selected, no down ballot. And I watched multiples. I don't know how many I watched, and not one of them was for Trump. I thought that was really strange, especially being military. You must know in your heart that this election was fraudulent. There's no question of it if you really are sensible. And
that's what I've been saying for years. If you genuinely, honestly look at any of the evidence speaks for itself loudly. And there's no way that what happened, the story we were told about the 2020 election, there's no way that happened. There's no way it's true. And so here's Bill. He says the 2020 election was statistically impossible. It is obvious. Yes, you don't need to have a big brain to see that this is clearly not possible. But the 2020 election was statistically impossible. Obama had massive rallies and big turnouts. Trump had massive rallies and big turnouts. Biden did not campaign. Obama had 69 million votes. Trump had 74 million votes. And Biden had 81 million votes. Obama won 873 counties. Trump won 2,497 counties. Biden won 477 counties. Obama won 18 of 19 bellwether states. Trump won 18 of 19 bellwether states. Biden won 1 of 19 bellwether states. Obama won Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. Trump won Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. Biden lost Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. And Obama won House seats. Trump won House seats. Biden lost House seats. So the real insurrection occurred November 3rd. No. The real insurrection occurred a long time ago, everyone. Lots longer ago than we care to admit, because it would mean a whole lot of stuff that's happened in the last 40 years is not strictly above board, right? So, yikes. Here is 0 Hour, and he says, holy cow, Trump has video of them stealing votes. And I think she picks up a USB key and walks away with it. I'm not 100% sure. I watched this a couple of times. She like looks over at this guy and she palms this thing like she's got drugs or something. And then she has trouble getting out of the chair. And I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what this video is showing, but the person thinks that this is showing them stealing votes. But it just looks like she's having a hard time getting out of the chair to me. But she certainly palmed something. I don't know what she palmed. And I don't know what that means, but she's doing something with that. And Trump thinks it's significant. I don't know the significance, but it looks, he says, not Trump, but the person tweeting, he says that it's them stealing votes. I don't know the context to explain it, so apologies. But there's certainly something nefarious going on there. The SCIF says, here's how Dominion flipped and switched the 2020 presidential election in the middle of the night in Antrim County, Michigan, from Trump to Biden. The error rate permissible is 1 out of 125,000 ballots. Dominion in Antrim County's error rate was 8.3. That's 750 times the allowable limit. The Secretary of State official also told volunteers to count multiple ballots with the very same signature during an audit of votes in Antrim County. Since there were so many errors, they claimed because of fake ballots, duplicate ballots running through machines, manually caught double signatures, and every other method of fraud committed during the 2020 elections. Ballots would then go to adjudication. Since the adjudication was programmed at an astronomically high 750 rate, the ballots were switched in adjudication either by Dominion's programmed machines to Biden itself, or someone manually adjudicating groups of ballots at the click of a button all at once for Biden, bypassing obvious fraud or switching votes from Trump to Biden on site in adjudication manually. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a clerical error. This wasn't a mechanical error. This was fraud. Remember, this is just one layer and method of fraud committed. There are multiple methods and techniques to alter elections. Now look at how high the percentage of ballots that were sent to adjudication. Adjudication is where a lot of the fraud took place, which is just one layer of the total fraud operation to flip votes and pass through fraudulent ballots where the machines failed to do so or were caught through an audit. 68% of all ballots in Antrim County, Michigan were in adjudication. 94% of all ballots in Fulton County were in adjudication. Georgia's adjudication is massive. Noticing a pattern, many records were destroyed. Physical evidence was never allowed to be looked at, including logs, chain of custody, you name it. Nothing was done or allowed to be done after the fraud in 2020, just like in BC, everyone, just like in BC. Trump, I've been watching the remanded try and get things done, and he cannot get anything done because it is impossible, because he's being blocked at every turn, honestly. Trump was the actual winner of the 2020 election. All this fraud we went over was just one county. Now imagine the rest of the country. The most important thing to understand is that this happened all over the country and is happening in over 100 countries around the world. This is the election fraud cartel and their fraudulent method to rigging and stealing elections worldwide, because Dominion, Smartmatic, Maru Systems are all branches of the same base company. And the same base company is run out of Venezuela. Venezuela is part of the cartel that rigs the elections worldwide. So it's crazy town, man. It's crazy town. I don't know if this is all going to come out. Like, I feel like this could go the way of the biolabs too, right? Because if this all comes out, then the shit's going to hit the fan, and they don't want the shit to hit the fan. Fundamentally, if the shit hits the fan, they lose control, and they don't want that. So they're going to do everything they can to prevent that. I have to do this health program before we move on and I kill the stream. But it's wild and crazy what's going on in Canadian healthcare. I hope that I never seriously need Canadian healthcare, because I feel or fear that it will not be there for me if I'm in distress, because it's not there for anybody else when they're in distress, and I report on that, and that's concerning. So Kayla says, tonight some people will not wake up tomorrow, not because of medical failure or medicine failed, but because they stayed home knowing that their heart was weak or their cancer was back. In Canada, ER wait times now average 6 to 10 hours. Over 1 million people leave emergency rooms every year without being seen. Thousands die annually after delayed or missed care. We call this free healthcare, but when care is unavailable, delayed, or denied, the cost is paid in lives. No one should die waiting in a system we pretend is working, and it is not working. Here is a story of a man in Edmonton and what happened to him. And this is his wife. He passed away, and this is his wife standing over his dead body. And YEG Wave says a 44-year-old Edmonton man has died, leaving behind his wife and 3 children after reportedly waiting more than 8 hours at the Grey Nuns Hospital while experiencing persistent chest pain. While waiting, he allegedly reported blurred vision and had a blood pressure reading of 210 and was reportedly given only Tylenol. Forgot to add the wife of the deceased and the person who recorded this video have granted us full permission to post it. One of our followers who witnessed the scene described the events as they unfolded on our Instagram. And Clinton says, I was there. He begged for help and they told him to go sit down and wait every time he approached the desk. He was on the floor asking time and again, and they said he needs to get away from the area for the other patients' privacy as they were checking in. He was pacing and dry heaving while tapping his chest, clearly in distress. I never want to see the inside of that ER again. I know what I saw. Murder, right? Like, this is unbelievable. According to Global News, 44-year-old Edmonton father Prashant Sri Kumar, died in the Grey Nuns Hospital emergency room waiting area on December 22nd. He began experiencing severe chest pain at work and was driven to a hospital by a client. After being checked in at triage, he waited in the waiting room for more than 8 hours while his blood pressures reportedly soared. Staff offered Tylenol and an ECG was performed, but families said he was told nothing of significance was found. When finally called into the treatment area, Preshant collapsed within seconds and was pronounced dead from apparent cardiac arrest. He leaves behind his wife and 3 children, aged 3, 10, and 14. That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. Family and friends are calling for answers, questioning how a man with severe chest pain could be left waiting in a hospital without proper care. Covenant Health, which runs Grey Nuns Hospital, confirmed the case is under review by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner and offered condolences to the family. So, yikes, right? Like, this is a complete failure. Billboard Chris says the wife was told she was being rude after her husband died while waiting to be seen in the ER for over 8 hours with chest pain. Sean says, quote, verbal abuse of staff will not be tolerated. Even when they let people die instead of lifting a finger to do something, don't you dare raise your voice against them or they'll call the cops on you. Their mental health is worth more than your life or that of your spouse's life. So the hospital let this guy die. And then they said, listen, lady, you got to calm down. That's crazy. That's crazy. So if you think that the healthcare system in Canada is going to be there for you, well, it's not. It's not. It's not. Here's Don Cherry, and he says, Merry Christmas, you people. He says, to all you people out there, Merry Christmas. So he's looking like he's living his best life. He looks like he's going to enjoy that turkey anyway. So there you go. And with that, we've got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay. I'll be around tomorrow.